Imagine you're shopping in a busy ancient marketplace. The air is thick with the smell of olives, dust, and sun-warmed stone. Merchants are shouting over each other, selling figs, fabrics, and fish. Philosophers argue in corners. Children chase each other between clay pots and stray dogs. Then, something shifts. You hear it first, the distant clatter of armor, the rhythmic thud of hooves. Conversations die mid-sentence. Heads turn. Even the wind seems to pause. A procession is moving through the city like a wave of gold and steel. Soldiers, nobles, banners, all surrounding a young man on horseback. His presence is magnetic, controlled, radiating power. People step aside in silence. The crowd parts like water, and then just ahead the procession halts. Because there, lying on the bare earth, is a man. He's not kneeling, not bowing, not even acknowledging the spectacle around him. He's stretched out in the sun beside a massive clay jar. His cloak is ragged, his body thin, his eyes closed, like he owns the very sunlight itself. The man on horseback dismounts. He walks straight toward the figure in the dust. "I've heard of you," he says, voice calm but commanding. "They speak of your wisdom, your defiance, your strange way of life." The man in the dirt doesn't move. "Ask anything of me," the rider offers. "Wealth, shelter, protection, speak, and it is yours." Still nothing. Then slowly, almost lazily, the sunbather turns his head. He squints, not in reverence, but like someone whose view is being blocked. And finally he speaks. "Yes," he says, "there is something you can do for me." He raises a hand. "You're blocking the sun." Silence. No one breathes, and then the rider laughs, deep and sincere. He turns to his entourage and says, "If I were not who I am, I would wish to be this man." You've just witnessed the moment when the greatest conqueror of the ancient world met the man who had conquered the need to conquer, Alexander the Great. And our subject today, Diogenes. Diogenes of Sinope, arguably one of the most radical and extreme advocates of cynicism who ever lived. While often remembered for his eccentricities, living in a barrel, carrying a lantern in daylight, and famously telling off Alexander the Great, these actions were not mere quirks. They were deliberate, physical manifestations of a profound philosophical rejection of societal norms and a radical pursuit of virtue and authentic living. He rejected wealth, fame, power, even basic comfort. But why? To understand Diogenes' view of society, we need to dive into his childhood, his philosophical transformation, and the rebellious core of Cynicism, the school of thought he helped ignite. But first, what is cynicism? Cynicism is the inclination to believe that people are motivated purely by self-interest, skepticism in its rawest form. It's the kind of disbelief you might feel when a stranger smiles too kindly, or when someone offers help but you question the motive. You become suspicious of appearances, of titles, of virtue performed for show. But in Diogenes' world, cynicism wasn't just an attitude, it was a way of life. A defiant philosophy that said, strip everything away and live only by nature and virtue. Diogenes was born around 412 BCE in Sinope, a city on the coast of modern-day Turkey. His father, Hecesius, was a banker. So Diogenes didn't start life poor, quite the opposite. He had access to education, resources, and likely a future in finance. However, a dramatic turn of events irrevocably altered his path. His father was caught defacing currency, either literally by shaving coins or metaphorically by corrupting financial practices. Dishonest bankers or money handlers would shave or clip small amounts of metal off the edges of coins, collect those shavings to melt down and sell the metal or make new coins, and then pass the now slightly smaller or lighter coins back into circulation. This was considered a severe crime, almost like economic treason, because it devalued the currency and undermined trust in the financial system. In either case, Diogenes, alongside his father, was implicated. Whether he was guilty or simply collateral damage, he was exiled from Sinope, cast out, banished. And just like that, Diogenes lost his homeland, his inheritance, and his place in society, marking the beginning of his philosophical awakening. He journeyed to Athens, the intellectual heart of Greece, where he encountered Antisthenes, a pupil of Socrates known for his harsh rejection of luxury and materialism. At first, Antisthenes didn't want to teach him. Diogenes kept bugging him, so much that Antisthenes tried to chase him off with a stick. But Diogenes said, "Go ahead and hit me. but you won't find any wood strong enough to make me walk away from your teaching." Eventually, Antisthenes gave in, and Diogenes became his most extreme disciple. He adopted Antisthenes' teachings about virtue being the only good and the importance of living according to nature, but pushed them to their absolute extreme, one of them being cynicism. The word cynic comes from the Greek kynikos, meaning dog-like. This wasn't a compliment. Diogenes embraced the insult. He even said, "I am a dog. I fawn on those who give me anything. I bark at those who give me nothing, and I bite the rogues." Cynicism taught that virtue was the only good, and everything else, wealth, power, fame, even comfort, was a distraction. Diogenes took this to the extreme. To be virtuous meant being self-sufficient, free from social constructs, free from possessions, free from needing approval. So he gave up everything, literally. Diogenes didn't technically live in a wooden barrel. It was more like a large ceramic storage jar, called a pithos. But the symbolism is what matters. He dragged it around Athens and Corinth, living inside it in the agora, the public square of Athens, on full display. His rejection of comfort wasn't quiet or private. It was loud, confrontational, performative. It was a direct statement against the perceived excesses and dependencies of settled life. His possessions were minimal. He owned only a cloak, a bag for food, and a wooden bowl, until one day he saw a boy drinking water with his hands. He promptly threw the bowl away, saying, "A child has beaten me in simplicity." By sleeping in a jar and owning nothing, Diogenes shamed the powerful, exposed the absurdity of luxury, and made himself a walking critique of society. Diogenes didn't just talk philosophy, he acted it out. Every move was a statement. He walked around with a lamp in broad daylight, claiming, "I am looking for an honest man." He once saw a rich banquet and spat on the host, saying it was the only place dirty enough to deserve it. He urinated, defecated, and even masturbated in public. When criticized, he replied, "If only it were as easy to banish hunger by rubbing the belly." To Diogenes, shame was a tool of control. If something is natural, why hide it? Perhaps the most famous story of Diogenes is his encounter with Alexander the Great. Alexander visited Athens and sought him out. He found Diogenes lying in the sun. He introduced himself and said, "I am Alexander the Great." Diogenes replied, "And I am Diogenes the dog." Amused, Alexander offered, "Ask anything of me." Diogenes looked up and said, "Yes, stand out of my sunlight." Alexander was stunned. Later he remarked, "If I were not Alexander, I would wish to be Diogenes." This story captures the contrast. One man had conquered the world, the other had conquered need. For Diogenes, society was a lie. Its values, wealth, fame, politics, politeness, were masks. He stripped all that away. He believed the path to happiness wasn't found in acquiring more, it was in desiring less. Society trains us to chase, consume, and conform. Diogenes said, "Let go. Let go of pride. Let go of appearances. Let go of shame. Live like a dog, honest, unashamed, and free." Diogenes was arrested more than once. He was even sold into slavery after being captured by pirates. When asked his profession, he replied, "I know how to govern men. Sell me to someone who needs a master." He was bought by a Corinthian named Xeniades, who made him tutor to his sons. Diogenes raised them in his minimalist virtue-first style, and remained in Corinth for the rest of his life. He never stopped teaching, even in slavery. He proved that inner freedom could not be taken. His ideas deeply influenced later philosophers, especially the Stoics like Epictetus and Marcus Aurelius. Though Stoicism became more socially acceptable, its core values, self-control, virtue, and rejecting pleasure for wisdom, echo Diogenes. Cynicism evolved, but none matched Diogenes in intensity. Modern minimalists, anti-consumerists, and even street performers owe a silent debt to this man who barked at society. So what can we learn from Diogenes' way of life? 1. Question everything. Don't blindly accept societal norms, traditions, or values. 2. Simplicity is freedom. True independence comes from mastering desires and minimizing needs. 3. Virtue above all. Inner character and moral integrity are the only things truly worth pursuing. 4. Authenticity over appearance. Be true to yourself and to nature, even if it means challenging convention. Number 5. Speak truth boldly. Use your voice to confront injustice and hypocrisy. Diogenes lived his philosophy with unwavering conviction until his death. The precise circumstances remain debated. Some accounts say he died of natural causes, possibly from an infection caused by a dog bite, fitting, given the dog-like nature of cynicism. Others claim he died after eating raw octopus. Some even say he died by voluntarily holding his breath, a final act of defiance and control over his own existence, refusing to be subjected to bodily decay or the whims of fate. Whatever the case, Diogenes died as he lived, on his own terms. He asked to be thrown outside the city walls for wild animals to consume his body. When told that would be dishonoring him, he replied, "Then give me a stick to drive the beasts away." "But you won't be able to feel anything when you're dead." "Exactly. Then why should I care what happens to me?" Diogenes left behind no written works, but his actions, his words, and his radical lifestyle left an indelible mark. He showed that a life unburdened by social expectation, lived with radical simplicity and unflinching virtue, was not only possible, but perhaps the path to true freedom and happiness.